Well, once again, good morning and happy Super Bowl Sunday to all y'all. So we're going to do a quick little poll. This is going to be our LifeChurch poll of who is going to win the Super Bowl. So we've got the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be playing later this evening. So let's do a quick poll. Now, this is not who you like, what team you cheer for, right? Because are there any Cowboy fans in the house here? Okay, that's what I thought, right? So this is not breaking your allegiance to the Cowboys. Okay, this is just simply who you think is going to win. Let's see how correct we get as a church. Who thinks here that the San Francisco 49ers are going to win? No, you got to cheer. It's got to be like applause meter. Cheer. Okay. Who thinks that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win? Oh, wow. North Campus, I don't know how your poll went, but here it was overwhelming for the Chiefs. But anyway, I'm pulling for the Niners, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, all right? But this is Super Bowl Sunday, and so I thought I would share something with you to kind of help you get in the game, all right? And you're going to see some correlations here to how this can apply to your life and what the Word of God says about the subject matter of getting the game. But I thought I would tell you a little story first about getting in the game. So, it's funny how when we're younger, someone said that youth is wasted on the young. Sometimes we have to make some of the most important decisions in our life when we're really young and we don't have kind of the foresight to really understand the perspective to really make good decisions. And so I remember being in high school, and you have to take, I think this is still the same way now, but usually you have to take at least 2 years of some kind of physical education. Right? And so if you're not in one of the athletic departments, if you're not if you're not a football player or a basketball player or a soccer player, whatever it might be, then you've got to take PE. Well, I was new at a new school when I was in 9th grade, R.L. Turner in Carrollton, and so I realized, though, I did not want to go to PE because the kids that were in PE had no desire to be in PE, and there was no physical advancement that was going on. So I figured that's the way it was in my school. So I decided that I wanted to just try to make it in some kind of other sport. And I'd already been playing golf from the time I was a little kid, and I played baseball and all that. And I don't know what got into me, but I decided that I was going to be a basketball player. Now, here's the thing about that decision. I was an incredible basketball player, except for the fact that I wasn't very fast at running. I didn't jump very high. I was very bad at defense, and I didn't make a lot of baskets. Other than that, I was amazing. I was an amazing basketball player. In other words, I wasn't. Okay, so with that, I don't know why I chose that. Basketball was probably in its height of popularity at the time. I was in high school when Michael Jordan was peaking in his career, and so it was just the thing to do. And so I decided that I would play basketball, and I had a couple friends that were in there. I didn't really care that much about basketball or the game. I was just there because I needed the credit and because my friends were in basketball. So I did okay with like the training and the practices and all that. But I was the first to tell you, you don't need to start me. Okay, you don't need to put me in as a starter. You don't need to. I really don't need any playing time, Coach. I'm just here for the credit, right? It's really sad, but that was my desire. I had no desire to get in the game. Now, some of that was because some of the stuff I had experienced once I got in the game. I remember one time, one of the games that I was playing, the coach put me in. I think he had to, by law, had to rotate each player in for at least a certain amount of time. Check, I let him play for a second, and so they put me in the game, and the other team decides to do a full court press. Now, I realize this is a basketball analogy during Super Bowl Sunday, but just bear with me for a second. And so the other team decides to do a full court press. And for those of you who don't know what that is in basketball, it's where they go into hyper mode in defense, and they try to block you from the time you're at the other end of the court and you're passing the ball in. And so I was the only one left open, and so they do the inbounds pass to me. And I've got the ball now, and I go, now what do I do? Right? I'm thinking, I don't know what to do. So I remember in practice, we learned this whole thing of, pivot and pass, and all this kind of stuff, bounce pass, straight pass, whatever it might be, right? And so they passed me the ball. It's the first time in a game, and I literally panic, and I think, what do I do now? Because I knew I wasn't really that great at dribbling. I could dribble, but I wasn't going to, fake anybody out and make some major advancement, right? And so I panicked completely. I'm in ninth grade. I'm 14. Voice was still cracking. Arms were longer than the legs. It was a really weird kind of phase in my life, right? So I take the ball, and without looking, they inbounds the ball this way, and we're going that way. So I receive the ball, and I decide I'm going to do a pivot step and just throw it to the first player I see from my team. The problem is I probably had my eyes closed. I pivot and just throw the ball like that, as hard as I could. There were no teammates in sight, but what there were two defensive players standing right there that were on the full court press, and I nailed one of them in the nose so hard. You cannot believe it, man. I about started a fight in the basketball game because I think they thought I was just, who on earth would do this? Well, I did that. So anyway, this was the beginning of my illustrious career as a basketball player, freshman basketball player for the incredible R.L. Turner High School. So the rest of the season, my prayer was, Coach, don't put me in. That was what I was hoping, right? Don't put me in the game. I'm good. I'm good. It was kind of the opposite of that song. I think it was from I don't know how many decades ago. It was, put me in, Coach. I'm ready to play. There was a song, hey, I want to get in the game. Put me in the game, right? It was the opposite for me, man. I'm like, don't put me in, Coach. I am not ready to play. So we're in the last game of the season, and I have managed to keep my uniform very clean. I mean, very clean. It looked brand new, like it had hardly been used because it had hardly been used, okay? So we're like in one of the last games of the season, and I'm counting down. I cannot wait to watch that clock go to 0 because then I'm done with my athletic PE credit for the semester. And so I finally, the clock is got like 8 seconds left on it. And the coach calls a timeout, and he goes, Holland, get in there. And I look at him like, why? Why? Who is this going to benefit? This is not going to help you. It's not going to help my teammates. It's not going to help our school. And it's certainly not going to help my reputation. I'm good right here, man. I haven't broken a sweat. I am totally good. Just leave me right there on the bench. And he's like, no, you need to get in there. I'm like, no, really? I'm not sitting there trying to talk him out of putting me into the game. So he put me in the game. They passed me the ball, and I went up and I did an incredible slam dunk. No, just kidding. I just stood there, and 8 seconds ran out, and that was the end of it, right? I didn't want to get in the game. I had no desire to. And the main reason is because I felt disqualified. I did not feel equipped that I was going to make a difference for our team. As a matter of fact, I thought I'm going to make a negative impact for everybody here. Today I want to talk to you about getting into the game. Because there's some perspective that we can have, and while not everybody here is a football fan, and not everybody here is going to watch the Super Bowl, according to the stats, 1 out of every 3 Americans will be watching the Super Bowl this afternoon. There's going to be over 100 million people watching. And here's the basic breakdown of the possibilities of who's going to be involved in the Super Bowl today. First, you got your spectators, okay? So we got 100 million viewers in the U.S. It's going to be a sold-out stadium there in Miami, and so people are going to be there live. But you don't just have the spectators there at the actual stadium. You got the spectators that are watching at home. Over 100 million viewers in the U.S. It's going to bring in $336 million in ad revenue for Fox. Now, anybody here have a small business you'd love to get a small little commercial, inserted into the Super Bowl this afternoon? You can. A 30-second commercial is only $5.6 million. If you'd like to advertise your company, your small business there. Besides all of this, it's going to be televised in 180 countries. So it's very far-reaching. However, though, out of all those other countries, there's only like 50 million people that are going to be watching it all around the globe. It's still, American football is not caught on in other parts of the globe. Like compared to the World Cup finals, it's just like 1/10 of the viewership for the Super Bowl on a global perspective. So you got your spectators, right? These are the people who are going to watch. They're going to watch the game. Then you got your cheerleaders, right? You got your cheerleaders, and they're going to cheer for their team, right? They're going to cheer on the 49ers. They're going to cheer on the Chiefs. Then you got your commentators. Now, that's not just the guys in the booth. That's every one of us sitting on the couch, right? Like, hey, man, why do they do this? Why do they do that, right? It's so easy for us to say, right? But you got your commentators. And then finally, you've got the players. This is pretty much who you've got that's going to be participating in the game this afternoon. In the game of life, are you in the stands? Are you on the sidelines, in the press box, or on the field? Most people, unfortunately, watch life happen to them. Or they cheer others on and think, man, I wish I had a win in my life, not realizing the only way you can get a win is if you decide to join the team. Or we're commentators. We've got an analysis of what everyone else should be doing, why they're doing it wrong, but never actually applying any of that to ourselves in the way that we live life. And then finally, you have the option of being on the field. It is possible to exist in life and never get in the game. To just watch, to just make commentary, cheer others on, criticize others. But I want to invite you today that some click will happen in your heart and you will actually get in the game of life. So let's talk about that here for a second. Why would some people not get in the game? Why do some people just never really engage in what's going on in life? The first reason is because they don't care. Simply, you've reached a point, either you never cared or you used to care and it hurt too bad because you cared and it hurt, that you just have made a decision, I no longer care. There's an example of this, that we see this contrast of someone who just doesn't care in a parable that Jesus shares called the parable of the Good Samaritan. And in that parable in Luke chapter 10, we see this man who was traveling and gets beat up by bandits, by robbers on the road, and he's left there for dead. And we see three different people that come across his path. A priest, a temple assistant, and then a Samaritan. That's why he gets the name the Good Samaritan. Now, there's a lot of really cool, intricate reasons of why Jesus tied in a Samaritan, because the Jews hated the Samaritans, and that he was addressing racial issues that were going on at that time in his world. And so these other two just walk by, don't do a thing about it, don't care about this person who is hurting. But this other guy decides to get in the game. You see, every single day and every single week, you and I come across people who need something. They need help. And it's so easy for us. Even if you're a strong believer in Jesus. I mean, the example Jesus paints here is this is a priest and a temple assistant. These people were very religious. And yet, they were the first to ignore somebody who needed help. But somebody there decided he did care. And in that moment, he got in the game. And his life was changed. We know the blessing that comes back on someone when you go above and beyond to help someone who is in need. The Good Samaritan got in the game. There's another reason why people don't get in the game. It's because they don't feel equipped. Like they feel like they don't have what it takes. Now, we see this story happen with the story of David and Goliath. And for those of you who are not familiar with the story of David and Goliath, David is this young guy who is a teenager, and he's sent by his dad to go take his brothers some food. His brothers have gotten through all the military training, right? It's probably what David wanted to do, but David was stuck taking care of his father's sheep. Now, we see actually the faithfulness and the honor that David exhibits even through that process. And so David shows up one day to go take his brothers something to eat, and he notices something. And we find it in 1 Samuel 17 and verse 24. It says, as soon as the Israelite army saw him, they began to run away in fright. That wasn't David they were talking about. It was Goliath. Because as David approaches his brothers to take him something to eat, all of a sudden this Philistine, who was the arch enemy of the Israelites, This Philistine giant named Goliath comes out and starts taunting and starts talking a lot of smack, as you say in the sports world. And all of a sudden, David watches all these people run away in fright. Now, here's the very interesting thing about this story, is that all of these soldiers with all of their armor and their spear and their helmet and all this other stuff that they would have, their swords, they see this other giant, they see this giant named Goliath come at them, and Goliath has on a helmet and a spear and a sword and all these, the normal, traditional, conventional weapons of warfare. And when they looked at that situation, they realized, here's me, here's Goliath, his sword is bigger than my sword, his shield is bigger than my shield. I'm not equipped. I can't handle it. David, though, realized something. He realized that he had something that was better than trying to put on armor. Now, he tries for a minute. He asked King Saul. Saul was the king at the time. He asked him if he can borrow some armor, and so he tries to put it on, and he realizes, you know what? This ain't for me. This is not how I win the battles. Because here's the interesting thing, is that David was already in a boot camp. He just wasn't in the Israelite army boot camp. He didn't get to go to West Point. He didn't get to go to basic training. He, though, was taking care of his father's sheep. And during that time, when everyone else had forgotten about him and he felt insignificant probably, there were some people who tried to attack his father's sheep. Animals like lions and bears. And David is able to conquer them. He is not afraid. He has this courage that was his training ground, so that in that moment, he was able to conquer this giant named Goliath, but he didn't do it with a sword or with a spear or anything else like that. He takes some stones that he used. He had a slingshot that he would use when he was taking care of his father's sheep. And he realized that I may not be equipped in the way that other people think I should be equipped, but God has given me and prepared me in a special way, in a unique way, that I have something to offer in this world. I am equipped. And so you may be continually comparing yourself to other people in life and saying, I don't have what they have. I don't have that education. I don't have that resource. I don't have that financing. I don't have that intellect. I don't have that personality. And all you're doing is just comparing their sword against your sword, their spear against your spear, their helmet against yours. You don't need to do that. Take a step back and realize, how is it that God has made you? Because you probably are going to identify that this has been a training ground for you and you didn't know it. The season that you have walked through, God is using. I feel so strongly in my heart to say this to someone right now. You thought this was a wasted season in your life. And it is actually the most important training ground that you can ever have, because you're going to use it to slay giants that no one else in a traditional way is going to know how to conquer. I believe that with all of my heart. Another reason why people don't get in the game is because they don't feel qualified. It's the whole, who am I? Why do I? I'm not a player, man. I'm just a spectator. The example is Moses at the burning bush. So Moses has this amazing story. He was kind of put up for adoption, if you will, in the most cruel and primitive ways that could happen, because very similar to what happened in the time of the birth of Jesus, where Herod gives a command to kill every baby boy. Well, Pharaoh did the same thing, and this is another typology we see between Moses and Jesus. And so Moses his parents just put him in a little basket and sent him down the river, hoping he's going to survive some way, to hide him from Pharaoh's army that's going to kill all the little baby boys. And so it so happens that the person who finds Moses when he's an infant is Pharaoh's daughter, one of the princesses there of Pharaoh's house. And so they bring Moses in, and they raise him in Pharaoh's home. So he gets all this education, all these great things. He has a lot of opportunity thrown his way. But Moses' life is divided basically into three categories. 3 40-year segments. The first 40 years of his life, he was in Egypt, in Pharaoh's house. He lived in opulence. He had incredible education, incredible opportunity and resource. But he sees one day one of his brothers, because he knew he was an Israelite. And so he sees one of them being treated harshly, and he kills an Egyptian who's treating him harshly. And so he has to go on the run. He gets in trouble, and he has to flee from Egypt. And he spends the next 40 years of his life out in the desert, somewhat forgotten. I mean, you think about a contrast. It'd be like being raised in the White House, and then you go for like 40 years to, I don't want to offend anybody naming a state, but like you're out in the middle of Nevada or someplace, right? Or out in the middle of Montana. Now, I've just offended everybody from Nevada and Montana, but so I'm going to move on. But he just out in the middle of nowhere. He doesn't talk to anybody, doesn't see anybody. And one day he has this experience where he sees this bush, and it looks like it's on fire, like it's burning. And so he sees the burning bush, and God speaks to him, and God starts to call Moses. Now, in that moment, Moses would go, yes, thank God. You got it, God. Whatever you want, I'll do whatever you say. No, this is Moses' reaction in Exodus 3, verse 11. But Moses protested to God, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? You know that every single one of us face insecurities? Every single one of us question, do I have what it takes? You thought you were the only person that sometimes wakes up in the morning and say, I don't know if I've got it. I don't know if I can face the day today. I don't know if I've got enough energy, enough personality, enough smarts, enough resource. I don't know if I've got it. All of us go through that. It may be different in the way that we phrase it. It may be different in how often or how deeply we feel it. But every single one of us feel unqualified. So God begins to use this very, very humble, insecure leader named Moses. Amazing story. He ends up setting like 2 million people free from slavery, from bondage that they'd been living in for over 400 years. And he starts taking them on a promise to go, on a process to go to the promised land. Amazing story. There's another reason why sometimes people don't get in the game is because they don't think they will make a difference. It's like, look, I'm nobody that special. If I get involved in this or in that in my life, I'm going to give you some examples here in just a second. I don't know that I'm going to make that big a difference. I feel insignificant. I don't think I'm going to make a dent in the world. There's a really cute story you hear sometimes. You maybe have read this before, but this man observed this little boy walking on a beach. And on this beach, all of these starfish had washed up on the beach. And once they wash up, they're eventually going to die because they don't have a way to get back into the water. And out of the water, they long term, they're going to die. And so this beach had this incredible amount, hundreds and hundreds of starfish there on the beach. And so this man observes from a distance this little boy who's bending over, picking one up, throwing it back in the ocean, picking another one up, throwing it back in the ocean. He's watching this. He's thinking, oh man, how sweet and innocent, how naive of this little boy to think, this is such a futile process, what he's doing, to think he's going to make a difference. And so the boy continues just picking one up. I mean, there's thousands. He's just picking one up, throwing it back in the ocean. So the man finally approaches the little boy and says, hi there, son, what you doing? He said, oh, well, these starfish are going to die if I don't throw them back in the ocean. So he throws one in. He goes, well, that's really sweet of you, but, there's like thousands. You can see there's like a mile long on this beach. Do you really think you're going to make a difference? And the little boy holding one of the starfish in his hand says, I'll make a difference for this one, and throws it in the water. You see, we think that if we can't impact 1 million people all at once, that we're not making a difference. But true impact in life happens one person at a time. And when we start to look at situations in our life, not by large quantities of numbers, but understand the intrinsic worth that every single person has, you can make a difference. Maybe you have a heart for the lost, and you think, man, what it would be like to be like Billy Graham or Greg Laurie with Harvest America, or some other crusade you've seen, Reinhard Bonnke, that had a huge impact on the continent of Africa. Maybe you think of those examples and say, I'm never going to preach in front of 1 million people. You can make a difference in one person's life. And I bet if you actually make a difference in one or two people's life, the multiplied effect of that, because then that makes a difference, and they make a difference in other people's lives, you may not even realize it, but you're impacting dozens, if not hundreds of people through one simple act of kindness and obedience. You're making a difference. Get in the game. There is a role that you can play. And be cognizant of the opportunities that God puts before you. One of the examples I love from the Bible of someone who made a difference was Queen Esther. Circumstances had happened in the nation of Israel. They had gotten conquered and they were kind of living in exile. And so the Jewish people, were doing what they could to rise up and survive and this, that, and the other. And it's a really cool, amazing story about Esther you'll find in the Old Testament. And Esther, the way the circumstances happen, has an opportunity to influence the king and to save a nation. And her cousin tells her in Esther 4, verse 14, if you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for just such a time as this? There are options we have. You don't always have to respond. You don't always have to say something. You don't always have to do something. But what if God brought you into this world and the circumstances you're living are for such a time as this, that God strategically placed you in your school, at your work, in that neighborhood, in that friendship, in that relationship, for such a time as this? You can make a difference. Finally, sometimes people don't get in the game because they once were in the game and they got sidelined by injury. Today in the Super Bowl, they will probably, during the introduction, during the starting lineups, they will probably mention which players are on the injured reserve list. In other words, they're not available to play today. They'll mention the players that are probable, that they may be able to, if they need them, that they may be able to get into the game. And I don't know if maybe at one point you were a little bit more engaged in certain things in your life, and you had gotten in the game, and you took a couple blows, you got hit, and it hurt. We've all been there. It's happened to all of us. Where you start to question, I don't know if it's really worth it to try to win a victory, because it's painful sometimes. There is the possibility, there is the risk of injury. It's a very real thing. Not just in football, for that matter, in any sport or in anything in life. It may not be physical injury that happens to you. It could be emotional. And maybe you're sidelined by injury right now. You want to get in the game, but you're just not sure if it's worth it, if it's worth the risk, because it hurt too bad the other time you got in the game. I want to pray for you today that there will be a healing that will come to your heart, and that God will put in you a desire, a burning desire to get in the game, even knowing there's risk, because you realize that the reward is much greater than the risk. So you're thinking, well, okay, that's cool. I understand what you're saying, but how do I actually do this now? Like, how do I get in the game of my life? I want to talk to you a little bit about that for just a second. You see, there are areas in our life where we can just kind of be there but not be there. We're present, but we're not present. We're just showing up, going through the motions. Sometimes we're really aware, maybe if there was an injury, if you will, the moment that we decided to do that, to take on that attitude, that mindset. Or sometimes it was a slow process that was very subtle and subconscious, and we don't even realize until we start to thinking about it. We say, you know what, I kind of did check out in that area of my life. Let me give you an example. I want to encourage you today to get in the game with your family. Connect. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. There could be situations that you're going through in your family that are difficult. But get in the game. Because otherwise we can just sit back and say, well, good luck. We can cheer them on. We can criticize them as commentators. Or just watch and say, well, not my problem. We'll see what happens. I'm just here to watch. Maybe it's time to reconnect with some friends and get back in the game of that relationship and say, you know what, I want to help you. Now, you need to walk away from toxic relationships in your life. I'm the first to tell you that. There are relationships in your life that are not going to help you. The Bible kind of gives us an example in the book of Proverbs about iron sharpening iron. That's the kind of relationships and friendships you want to have in your life. So I'm not encouraging you today to reconnect with toxic relationships that you've had to cut off from your life. I am encouraging you to reach out and bring into your non-toxic world people who need some help and get in the game with them. And actually, the really cool thing about when you're a player in the game is that you can recruit others to get in the game. See, Jesus invited a lot of guys to get in the game with him. It was when he called his disciples. He recruited them and said, come on my team. And they did. And they started recruiting a lot of other people to join that team. Get in the game with the advancement of your career. You know that no one is as interested in your progress, in your moving up, as you are. No one else is going to do that for you. No one else is going to say, you know what? I know you're not even really trying that hard, but I just thought I should give you a promotion. Just cause. I just woke up in a good mood, and I just thought I should just move you forward. No. Because see, you can be present at work, or you can be present at work. You can make some decisions that you could advance in your current career. There are books that you could read. There are classes you could take. There are people you could get around that are iron sharpening iron that can make you better at what you do. Whatever it is that you need to take that step in, get in the game, start moving forward. Here's another one. Take control of your finances. Again, no one else is going to do that for you. It's not going to just happen automatically. There has to be an incredible level of intentionality to some of the things that we do in our life. Get in control of your finances. Get in the game. Get connected. You know the number one reason why we get our finances in a mess is because we're not active in the game. We're just on the sidelines, just kind of watching. Oh, look what happened. The money is only going to do what we tell it to do. Dave Ramsey says all the time, he says, don't ask, where did the money go? Tell the money where to go. Get in the game. All you have to do is just connect. Well, I don't have 6 hours, and I'm not an Excel spreadsheet buff, and I don't have, a finance degree. You don't have to. If you, maybe the first time it'll take an hour, but after that, if you'll just kind of get into a little pattern there and just say, I'm going to connect, I'm going to be conscious and intentional with what I'm doing, you're going to reconnect and get in the game, and financially, things are going to start to change for you this year, but you got to get in the game. Just cheering other people on with their success or criticizing other people and the way things are done is not going to make it happen. Get in the game. Here's another one. Now I'm going to really step on your toes. Change your health. I realized at the beginning of this year there's some things that I am not in the game with about my health right now, and I just made some small changes. Nothing earth-shattering. Just I'm going to stop drinking this. I'm going to stop eating that. Eat a little bit more of this. I'm going to start exercising a little bit more. Just real simple things. Get in the game. Because otherwise we can just sit back and say, well, good for them. Look what they're doing. No, do what you can. Now look, in all these scenarios, there are things out of our control. Y'all remember last week we talked about cause and effect? I told you very clearly, there are some things that are out of your control, but there is a ton that is in your control. So don't worry about all the stuff you can't control. Start worrying about what you can, and it will make a huge difference. Now, I want to encourage you in another thing here. We talked a little bit about this last week. about cause and effect, about the difference that you can make. See, when in your life, the difference you can make in our church, I want to talk to you about how you can get in the game at church. Because you're going to make a difference in the way that our church moves forward. So, one way is in worship. In worship, there are those same different scenarios of people that we talked about at the beginning. There are spectators. All they do is watch. They just watch what happens as other people worship. There are cheerleaders that do not actually worship, but they think, man, our worship team is awesome. And they applaud at the end of every song, right? And they're not against anything that's going on. They're just cheering along. But they're not active in worship. Then you got your commentators, right? You got your people that are criticizing, well, why do they do that song again? And why is the music so loud? Why is the music so soft? Why are the lights so bright? Why are the lights so dark? Right? You got your commentators. That's another very likely scenario. I remember one time, as someone told me, when we first started live streaming our services, where you could watch it on your phone or watch on a computer in your house, and they're like, man, it's like sometimes if you don't get like 50-yard line seats that are like, just a couple rows up, it's better to watch the football game at home because, you're in the comfort of your own home. You can be in your pajamas. You get all your snacks, and don't have to pay, 7 times their worth at the stadium. This and the other. And they were talking to me about how watching a service from home and staying in their PJs on a Sunday, that it was very tempting because it was just like way more comfortable. Now, let me tell you something as your pastor, okay? We're really glad that we're able to live stream our entire service when you're out of town, when you're sick, but it doesn't take the place of coming here. Now, why would that be? Why not? Why not next Sunday, everybody just stay at home in their PJs and watch? We'll have the worship team here. I'll come and preach. You can watch it there. Because you are looking at church through the perspective of a spectator versus a player. See, there's something that's amazing that happens when we gather there at the North, when we gather here at Central Campus, and the worship segment starts. You and I are players in that game. We're not here to watch other people worship. We're here to get in the game and to start worshiping God. So if ever you're sick, you're out of town, live stream the service, connect with us as best as you can, that's awesome. But unless you're sick or out of town, come, get in the game, because you're not here to just watch it from here versus watching it from your house. You've gathered here because you are going to make a difference in this environment, and you're not going to let somebody else worship for you because you're going to worship God because you know the difference it's going to make in your life. Get in the game. Then, of course, this next one, I don't know how you would be able to do this live streaming. Serve. Get in the game. You know there is something you can do. Well, I don't know how to sing. Look, that's just one of a ton of different ways that you can serve at our church. We always want to have people helping us with hospitality. We want people to help us with security. We want people to help us with children's ministry, with youth ministry. There is something you could maybe volunteer a couple hours a week to come help us in the office. Do things that we could do to help us be better organized and our administration be better. There's something that you can do. Get in the game. You can make a difference. You are qualified. You are equipped to do different things. Connect. This is a whole mindset that you can have the way that you look at church. Now look, I love y'all. I don't hate any of y'all. If you want to just come every Sunday, slip in, slip out, and you just come, it's better than staying at home. You're always welcome to do so. But I pray that something will happen in your heart that makes you actually want to connect, because church is even way better when you actually connect with the people that you're worshiping next to. When you connect with the people that you're serving along with. So this week we launched our Connect groups. And I bet there's one that's going to work for you, for your station in life, for your schedule for this week. But you got to take that step to get in the game and connect. Here's another way that you can make a difference. Give. Get in the game. Maybe you come to church and you just look at the time of the offering and saying, well, I'm not really into that. I don't really believe in all that. I'm not sure how I feel about all that. I'd be happy, and as a pastor from time to time, I'll teach you about why we give and how important it is. But get in the game not just because the church needs your finances, but because you need to give. Because when you get into that game, when you start to give, there's this whole other dimension that is going to happen in your walk with God. If you don't believe it, just try it. There's a reason why sometimes people have a big resistance to taking that step, because they know it's going to make a difference. Because there's a phrase that people say, put your money where your mouth is. We know that things that are real in our life, there's money attached with it. There's like, I'm really interested in this. This is important to me. And you follow the money trail. And maybe you're just kind of watching that whole process. Realize that you can get in the game and make a difference. Well, I'm not some multimillionaire. Nope. But when every one of us pick up the starfish and throw it back in the ocean, when every one of us do what God has called us to do, it will make a huge difference. There's another way to get in the game. Start to grow. Well, I'm just hanging on, bless God. No. You don't want to just hang on. You don't want to just survive. You want to thrive. You want to grow. God has put in you giftings and talents that this world needs. We need them in the church. We need them out of the church. We need them in every sphere of influence that you have. Start to grow. You have the potential to be more than what you are right now. Now look, again, we love you and God loves you just the way you are. I told one of my kids one time, and I was kind of, helping them stretch and to grow and disciplining them. And I said, I want you to hear two things I'm going to say at the same time. And they may seem opposite, but just follow me for a second. Number one, as your dad, I love you just the way you are. Secondly, as your dad, I love you so much that I'm going to stretch you so that you grow more. It's not one or the other. It's not you're going to have to grow, and then I'll love you. No. And it's also not, I love you just the way you are, so just stay like that. No, every parent wants to see their child grow. And when they're little, you want to see them grow physically. As they get older, you want to see them grow emotionally, you see them grow spiritually. Grow. Get in the game. You know who's responsible for your growth? Luck? No. Other people? No. You are. You're responsible for that growth. Get in the game. It's not going to happen on accident. It's going to happen because of intentionality. Finally, get in the game and lead. Lead? Okay, now you've done gone too far. No. No, you can lead. Me? I've never been to Bible school. I'm not talking about you preaching. Although one day that may happen. It's about you leading others. You know what all that process is of leading somebody? Come here. Let me help you. That's leading. It's helping someone go from point A to point B. And then for them to understand how to get from point B to point C and so on and so forth. Get in the game. Start helping others. So how can you do that? Well, let me tell you some real practical ways you can do before we ask God for his divine and supernatural help with this process. A lot of these things you already have the ability to do right now. You just need to take that step. And one of the ways that you could, for example, that you want to lead one day, you should lead a Connect group. You know, the best way for you to learn how to lead a Connect group is to attend one, to follow first, then to lead. See, Jesus' call to make disciples was come and follow me. You know why he invited people to follow him? So he could train them and one day they could lead others. One of the first sermons I preached back in 2008, Well, I preached a sermon when I was 15. That's a funny story. I was 15. I got invited to preach an outdoor revival in Oklahoma City, out in the middle of a field, like with a tent and everything. And in my incredible wisdom at 15 years old, decided to preach a very deep message on all of the allegory and symbolism of the tabernacle of Moses and how that applies to our life. And it was very interesting watching 200 people just kind of look at me like, I need Jesus, man. Anyway, so where was I going with all that? One of the sermons I preached before I was preaching every Sunday was come follow, go lead. That's basically the call of discipleship. Come and follow me, and then go lead. Jesus invited his disciples, come and follow, and then he told his disciples, go and make disciples. So come follow, go lead. And the best way that you're going to learn how to lead, the best way you're going to grow is when you start to do all these things right here and get involved and take a step and you get in the game. Now look, at this church, you're welcome to come and watch the game every week. You're welcome to our Super Bowl party every Sunday. You can come and watch. But it's a lot more fun to get down on the field and get involved and make a difference in the outcome of the game. Starting with the outcome of your life and the lives of others, the lives of this church, the lives of our city. So, most of all, get in the game with God. Because you see, if I just invite you to get passionately involved, getting in the game of life with your family, getting in the game of life at the church, and there's nothing behind all of that, it's just temporary. It's just, well, what's in it for me will be the process that we have. But see, the most amazing thing will happen is instead of you getting passionate about this church, if you get passionate about God, the passion for the church will just be an overflow. It will actually be the effect because the cause will be, I got on fire for God. And once I got on fire for God, then I looked at serving and helping other people and the way that I deal with my family, my friends, my career, involvement in church. I looked at that all differently. This is the most important thing you can do. You see, our Heavenly Father is the best coach with the best playbook. It's called the Bible. It's got the playbook. It's all the plays that you and I need to overcome what the defense is going to throw at us so that you and I can score. So you and I can move forward. So you and I can be victorious. Now, here's the cool part about all this. Not only is our Heavenly Father the best coach with the best playbook, but Jesus is the best teammate and leader you could ever have. You know, they say that one of the things that marks an incredible quarterback is, of course, not just their arm and how accurate they are with their passes, but being a quarterback is way more than that. Being a quarterback, you're in charge for the huddle. You're in charge of the huddle and what happens in that huddle process. And in that moment, before each play is executed by the team, you're going to have a nervous effect or a calming effect on the team. When I was a kid learning about football, my parents had moved from the mission field to California, so I grew up as a 49er fan. And it was the days of Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. There were some amazing players, and they won several Super Bowls in the 80s. And so that was the kind of generation I grew up watching. And one of the things they say about Joe Montana, he didn't have the arm Dan Marino had, who was a contemporary of his. Dan Marino threw a bullet. About hurt people. Thank God they had on padding because he just threw these bullets at people. Amazing arm. Joe Montana, good arm, good enough. But Joe Montana was an amazing leader, and one of the things they said was his calming effect in the huddle. And one time they were down, and he was about to lead this amazing comeback run. And what they said, the other players talked about, was when they got in the huddle, he started telling jokes. Why on earth would you do that? Tell them, hey guys, it's all going to be all right. And he was cracking one-liners in the huddle, and then he would call out the play. Because he realized that I need to calm these guys down. They're all nervous. And they didn't know everything's going to be all right. We're going to make it through this. And if I may, the analogy I want to draw is that God is our head coach, and Jesus is the quarterback. And every day when we get in the huddle with him, he wants to calm us down. I don't know if Jesus is going to be telling you one-liners, cracking jokes. But he may be saying some stuff to just make you understand it's all going to be all right. You got this. Stay in the game. You're going to make it. Because he's an incredible leader, but he's an incredible teammate. It was Jesus that said, "Come to me, every one of you who's tired, who's weary. Take my yoke upon you, and I will give you rest." Now, a yoke was an instrument of work. Why does Jesus say, "Take my yoke, and I'll give you rest"? Like, come work with me, and then you're going to find rest. If you look at that invitation from Jesus, is Jesus standing over here, a yoke over there, you walk up and he says, "Take that yoke," then it doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you understand that most of the time a yoke was made for two, this is really the way it's happening. Jesus is standing there with the yoke, and there's an empty spot right here, and he goes, "You've been trying to pull all that weight all by yourself with that other yoke? Come here. Take my yoke upon you, and I will give you rest." You see, the reason why that's restful is because you got a teammate now. You don't have to carry all this on your own. Jesus is the best teammate you could ever have. Hebrews 2:10 says, "God, for whom and through whom everything was made, chose to bring many children into glory, and it was only right that he should make Jesus, through his suffering, a perfect leader, fit to bring them into their salvation." Can I invite you right now to close your eyes? I want to pray for you there at the North, here at the Central Campus. Heavenly Father, we sense your presence right now in this place. I know, God, right now that there are some people who have identified exactly the moment they got out of the game. Or they've come to realize, I didn't realize it, but I've stepped out. I'm just watching life happen to me. Thinking I can't make a difference. Thinking I'm unqualified. Thinking that I'm ill-equipped. Father, right now I ask that you would help all of us to take a step back into the game. To do our part. Whether that be here at church, whether that be at home, whether that be at work, whatever area we need to step up in. And God, for those who have been sidelined by injury, I pray right now for your soothing balm, that healing oil, that it would be poured out and soothe every wound. Fill every void, God. Speak louder than the words of hate and criticism. Speak louder, God, than the words of rejection and hurt. Heal us as your people, God. Holy Spirit, do your work right now. Church, the Holy Spirit is ministering right now. Embrace his move. Embrace his work. Holy Spirit, do what you need to do right now. Renew our minds, God. Give us a new perspective, a new understanding of what's really going on in our lives. Heal us as your people right now in Jesus' name. With every eye closed, I want to give an opportunity right now for any of our friends that are in this place right now that you're not in the game following Jesus. He's tried to recruit you, and you have not taken that step, and you're just on the sidelines watching. You're just in the stands watching from afar. And Jesus on the field saying, "Come on. I've got something way better for you. And I'm going to be there with you. And I'm not going to leave you. And I'm going to make your burden way lighter." If you need the salvation that Jesus Christ bought for you on the cross, when he died for you, so that you can be forgiven of all of your sins, and you can begin to walk in a new life and in an abundant life and have the promise of eternal life. You don't have to fear death. You don't have to be afraid of hell. You can have the hope of heaven today. How do you do this? You get in the game by making a declaration. The Bible says in Romans 10, 9, and 10 that if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, you will be saved. And that miracle can happen right now, right here, in this very moment. If that's you, would you just raise your hand for a second and keep it raised as a sign of surrender? Say, God, I surrender my life to you. I'm going to lead you in a prayer in just a second. But if today you want to make Jesus the Lord of your life, just raise your hand and keep it raised for a second. I believe that salvation is about to come to someone's heart in Jesus' name. With every eye closed, and those who are ready to get in the game and make a decision to live life differently from this point forward, would you just raise your hand and keep it raised for a second? Repeat this prayer after me. Say, Heavenly Father, please forgive me of all of my sins. I give my life to you. I surrender all. Teach me your word and show me your ways. I belong to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Let's give the Lord a hand clap of praise right now and thank him for what he's done.